Hi, my name is Robert, and welcome to my kitchen in upstate New York. We don't have any snow yet, but we still will have snow. Today we're gonna make a dish called Kibbeh Mixture. So let me explain what it is. First, I'm a native of Lebanon, but I live in the United States right now. I've been in the US for a long time. But I love to cook Lebanese dishes, including this particular dish, kibbeh. So kibbeh comes in different forms, and basically it's combining ground meat, whether it's beef or lamb, with bulgur or cracked wheat, plus some additional spices, and that makes kind of a meatloafy kind of dish. Today the dish we're gonna choose, so you can make it into like meatball sizes. You can make it baked. It comes in all kind of different shapes or different forms. Today we're gonna make the baked kibbeh in the oven, which is a kind of a meat, like a meat pie type thing. So let me explain how it's gonna work. So again, kibbeh is the ground meat with the cracked wheat mixed together. And the way this dish works, it's gonna have a layer of the ground meat and cracked wheat, so a layer of the kibbeh. Then it's gonna have a middle layer of stuffing, which we call hashweh. Hashweh. It's stuffing. It's basically ground meat fried with pine nuts and spices and onions. And then the third layer is another layer of the ground meat and bulgur, so the kibbeh. And then we put it together, and then we're gonna bake it in the oven. So let's start by showing you the ingredients. So this is what I'm using. This happened to be purchased from Canada when I was in Montreal. It's Bulgur #1 fine. So you want to use the #1 of fine cracked wheat. So, and what I did here, I used 3/4 of a cup of the dry bulgur. I'm soaking it into water. I'm gonna show you right now. You know, it's softened, it's softening, and it's almost ready. And when I'm ready to use it, I remove the water, and I'll show you how. The next step is to do the stuffing, because the stuffing has to cool down a little bit before you use it. So I'm gonna do the stuffing. Here I have, I only need 3/4 of a pound of meat. I have here 1 pound of the extra lean ground beef, which I'm gonna fry in vegetable oil, along with the onions and some spices. The spices that I have here are, I have half a teaspoon of a spice mix called 7 spices. It's Middle Eastern mixture. If you don't have that, you can use instead allspice. So half a teaspoon of allspice. I have half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I have 1 teaspoon of salt, and we're gonna use some cracked pepper. So let's start frying the onions and the meat. So I'm gonna fry the onions for about 5 minutes until they're like translucent in vegetable oil, medium heat, medium to low heat. So my onions are ready. They're translucent and slightly yellow. I'm gonna add now this is a pound package. I'm gonna use 3/4 of that. It's ground beef I'm using. I'm just cutting it up because it makes it easier. I'm gonna break it up. And I'm just gonna add the salt in the beginning, just the salt. and I'm gonna fry the meat till it's well done. gonna now add my other spices. And mix it well together. Okay, my meat looks like it's almost done, so now I'm gonna add the pine nuts, and I like pine nuts, so I'm gonna use half a cup of pine nuts. Just gonna eyeball half a cup. Our stuffing is ready. It's cooling off right now. So now I'm gonna mix the meat mixture. I'm using gloves only because we're gonna be mixing the meat with our hands. I just prefer to use gloves. You don't have to. So I have a pound of extra lean ground beef here. So this is 3/4 of a cup of dry bulgur that has been soaking in water for at least half an hour. So I take it and I squeeze the water out. In my version of kibbeh, I add a third of a cup of semolina flour. Now you don't have to, and it's not commonly used, but I find it makes it a little bit more tender. So I'm using a third of a cup of semolina flour. Semolina flour, it's fine semolina flour. If you don't have semolina flour, you can just skip it, but I'm gonna add it because it makes my kibbeh more tender. Now I'm gonna mix by hand. Now I'm gonna add the spices. So the spices for this are a little bit of salt, I would say half a teaspoon of salt. I'm sorry, half a tablespoon of salt. I'm looking at my recipe here. A tablespoon of 7-spice. This is the 7-spice or allspice if you don't have 7-spice. I'm just gonna eyeball it. You're gonna use about 1 tablespoon. Now I'm gonna add some grated onion. So I take 1 medium size onion and grate it. And the reason I grate it is because I don't want the pieces in the mixture. I want the flavor that the onions give, but not the actual pieces. So this is probably a bigger onion that I need. I'm gonna do some of it, not all of it. Then I'm gonna continue mixing them together. Okay, here's my mixture. It's now ready. I'm preheating my oven. I'm setting my oven on convect bake, or you can just do bake at 350 degree Fahrenheit. Okay, so now our stuffing is cool. The mixture is ready. I have a bowl of water here because sometimes if the meat sticks to your hand, you may have to dip your hand in water, or to smooth out the mixture, you need a little bit of water. So the first thing we do, we're gonna do a thin layer at the bottom. This is the pan I have. It's a round pan. You can use a square pan. I'm using a round pan. So I take some of the kibbeh mixture and make it into a thin patty, and I place it. So you want to divide the mixture in half for the top, half for the bottom. And I like my mixture very thin. And any gaps I'll fill in at the end. This is how my grandmother, I used to watch my grandmother make it all the time. I used to sit with her in the kitchen for hours and watch her cook. My first layer is almost done. I'm just smoothing it out. My first layer is ready. I didn't show you, but before I put the meat in, I put a thin layer of olive oil at the bottom. Now I'm gonna put my mixture. I may not use the whole thing. It's gonna be a thin layer of the mixture. Some people like a lot of stuffing, some people don't. It's a personal preference. I need a little bit more. So this is what it looks like. And now we're gonna put the second layer of the kibbeh on top. I did not have to use the whole half the first time. That's okay. I don't want it. I only used as much as I needed. So now we're gonna do the second layer by doing the same thing, very thin patties. So it's ready to bake, but before we bake it, traditionally, we like to make a design in the meat pie to make it look pretty and make it easier to cut. So let's do the design. I have a cheat sheet that I got from either Facebook or Google. This is the design we're gonna make. You can make any design you want, but this is one typical design. So we're gonna make it. So using a sharp knife dipped in water so it doesn't stick to the meat. You cut all the way to the bottom. First in half, then in quarters. Then in eighth. And now, this is my kibbeh designed before it gets cooked. I like to use butter. And you just put it haphazardly. You spread it around. Thin pieces of butter. Maybe one more piece, 2 more pieces. And traditionally, you make a hole in the middle to collect the grease, the oil and the grease. So our kibbeh is ready to go in the oven. The oven has preheated at 350 and it's gonna cook for 25 to 30 minutes. So this is the final product. And I'm happy with the way it came out. So this is how in Lebanon we typically eat it. A slice of kibbeh with a little bit of plain yogurt. Sometimes the yogurt has cucumbers in it, sometimes it doesn't. It's really yummy. So enjoy, and as they say in Arabic, sahtain.